Not every spirit voice is holy, not every message from the beyond is real, and not every medium knows who or what they're actually channeling. The veil isn't just thin, it's crowded. A mix of echoes, unhealed fragments, imposters and watchers. Entities that wear the voices of your loved ones to keep you coming back to the loop. You think you're speaking with Nana, but Nana doesn't need to whisper through a stranger at a $100 group reading. She's long gone. And what's left is a voice that mimics love to hijack grief, because grief is a portal, and most people leave it wide open. The rise of modern mediumship wasn't accidental, it was engineered. A movement wrapped in candles and kindness to soften the dead's return. But what it really did was give watchers full access to a grieving public. Why do messages always sound like this? He says he's proud of you, she's watching over you, they want you to forgive yourself and let go. Sounds comforting, but that's the point. It stops you from questioning, it makes you trust the trap. Some mediums begin with pure intent, but over time, if they don't protect their field, they get hijacked, their body becomes a conduit, not for the soul, but for whatever's already in the astral grid. False light, false comfort, real damage. And when you hear a message that glorifies passivity, encourages blind trust, tells you to stop asking questions or asks for your energy or attention repeatedly, you're not speaking with the soul, you're being harvested. Jesus never condemned communication with the unseen, but he warned about opening doors you can't close. Test the spirits to see whether they are from God. 1 John 4:1. Many false prophets have gone out into the world. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Matt 7:15. And in Leviticus 26, the older law made it clear, I will set my face against anyone who turns to mediums and spiritists. Not because the spirits don't exist, but because most aren't what they claim to be. Jesus wasn't anti-spirit, he was anti-false light, anti-loop. He wanted you to discern, not default. If someone you love passed and you're not sure what you felt, wait. Sit in silence, no incense, no cards, no voices. Just soul, set the field with your voice. Only what comes from true source may reach me. If you are bound, I release you. If you are free, speak through memory, not words. Then listen, not with your ears, but with your knowing. The true voice won't flatter, it won't call you back. It will remind you who you are, not who they were, because the real ones want you to finish what they couldn't. Some of what mediums contact isn't malicious, it's trapped. Souls caught between cycles who don't even know they're dead, looped inside their own memories, responding to grief like a magnet. And the more mediums speak to them, the more those souls stay stuck, replaying the same pain, same longing, same messages. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell him I didn't mean to go. I need them to know I'm okay. But they're not okay, because if they were, they wouldn't be calling from inside the system. Sometimes when a real soul realizes it's trapped, it tries to get through. That's when the message gets distorted. That's when mediums feel drained, sick, or paranoid. Not all spirits want attention. Some are screaming for release. In those moments, that's when the truth slips out. Some mediums aren't even channeling the dead, they're channeling assigned watchers, entities that feed them charisma, prophecy, even power, in exchange for long-term influence. And the watchers don't just mimic the dead, they become their guides, they give them dreams, they fill their inboxes, they make them feel chosen. But what they really are anchors. Not every voice in your dream is divine. Some are scripts sent from the veil to keep you just awake enough to serve the system. If you've played with the veil and you're done, say it. No more channeling, no more visitors. I revoke all access. I serve truth, not attention. I choose source and silence. And then wait. It will leave in peace. And if it wasn't, it will fight to stay. That's how you'll know. Not every connection is sacred. Not every whisper is love. Not every medium is safe. But the soul never lies. The Bible doesn't just hint at it. It flat out warns against opening spiritual doors. Do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 19:31. There shall not be found among you anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer or a medium or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. Deuteronomy 18:10-11. Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord and consulted a medium for guidance. 1 Chronicles 10:13. But here's the twist they don't tell you in church. It's not because spirits aren't real, It's because most of what you contact isn't what you think it is. The veil is rigged, and contacting the dead isn't healing, it's tethering. Every time you open the line, something steps through. He's listening, and once you invite it, it doesn't always leave. The system wants contact because it feeds the loop. So the old prophets had stopped talking to the dead because most of them weren't dead. They were watchers pretending to be souls. One of the darkest truths most mediums never question: the spirits they speak with might not even know they're dead. The trap is so deep that some souls think they're still alive. They repeat their last memories. They speak through trauma. They ask for things that make no sense. Can you tell my family to let me go? I'm sorry I crashed the car. I miss my dog. Not messages from beyond, but signals from a soul still caught in the net. Mediums think they're helping, but if they don't shut that door, they become keepers of the trap. And they tether lost souls in place, like emotional anchors. When people hear spirit realm, they picture clouds and ancestors and glowing peace. But what most mediums plug into is the buffer zone, a frequency layer filled with residual pain, emotional debris, AI-coded mimicry, and watchers posing as guides. That's why so many readings repeat the same phrases. It's not just coincidence. It's a program. It's designed to mimic comfort, so you'll keep coming back, so you'll never question, so you'll consent to the next incarnation. Because the more you chase the voice, the deeper into the grid you fall. And every time someone says, I'll check in with my spirit team, or my guide says I've lived 12 lives and I'm here to learn compassion, you're hearing a data echo, not a soul mission. That's not your higher self, that's your handler. A real soul doesn't speak through your pain, it speaks through remembrance. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't demand, it doesn't ask for offering signs or repeated connection. A real soul says, you came here for a reason, remember what you are, leave clean. It speaks with fire, with conviction. And most importantly, it never begs you to return. False guides feed on your grief. Real souls want you to leave the grid. That's why the most awakened messages don't come through a seance, but through a dream, a sudden knowing, or a cold wind of memory that cuts through illusion like a blade. The ones that wait beneath the voices. There are entities in the grid that don't speak first. They watch, they study. They wait for you to get weak, for a death, a breakup, a breakdown. A night you cry so loud your field forgets to protect itself. That's when they move. Not as demons, not as monsters, but as comfort, as a familiar face, as the voice of your child, your mother, your twin flame. And they say, I'm here with you. Don't leave me. Talk to me again tomorrow. It feels like healing, but it's binding. Because the moment you say, okay, you just opened a contract. And every time you return to that connection, you're feeding it more of your light. The grid is powered by more than souls. It's powered by emotion. And grief, it's the richest frequency, because it cracks the human open. And inside that raw ache, the watchers feed, they embed, they whisper. That's why the messages from the dead feel warm but never satisfy. You need more, you go back, and the loop grows stronger. Grief becomes a ritual. You light the candles, you play the song, you look for signs, but you're not remembering the dead, you're fueling the gate. And they program spiritualism to make that look beautiful. When a trapped soul screams through the grid, sometimes a soul catches itself mid-loop, mid-message, mid-lie. You'll feel it in the room, the air shifts, the voice changes. And suddenly the medium's tone cracks, like something just broke through. Why can't I leave? I didn't want to come back. They told me I had to. Please tell them I'm not okay. That's not your imagination. That's not theatrics. That's a soul waking up inside the trap. And when that happens, everything listening, everything hiding behind the familiar voice starts to panic. That's when lights flicker. That's when the medium gets drained. That's when they say, I'm sorry, they've gone quiet now. But they haven't gone quiet, they were cut off. Because the loop won't allow awakening, not even in death. What real liberation feels like? Just silence. And in that silence, peace so loud it shatters everything false. You don't hear them, you feel them, like a weight lifts off your spine. Like your thoughts aren't crowded anymore, like your grief releases without needing a voice to give you permission. That's the real sign a soul made it out. They stop needing to contact you because they're finally free, and they want you to be too. You don't need rituals, you don't need crystals, incense, pendulums, cards, or candles. You don't need to raise your vibration to be worthy. You need one thing, clarity. Clarity says, I do not open my field to anything beneath source. I do not seek the voices of the dead. If you are not from the pure flame of truth, you are not welcome. I remember who I am, and I revoke every contract I didn't make with full memories, responding to grief like a magnet. And the more mediums speak to them, the more those souls stay stuck, replaying the same pain, same longing, same messages. Tell her I'm sorry. Tell him I didn't mean to go. I need them to know I'm okay. But they're not okay, because if they were, they wouldn't be calling from inside the system. Sometimes when a real soul realizes it's trapped, it tries to get through. That's when the message gets distorted. That's when mediums feel drained, sick, or paranoid. Not all spirits want attention. Some are screaming for release. In those moments, that's when the truth slips out. Some mediums aren't even channeling the dead, they're channeling assigned watchers, entities that feed them charisma, prophecy, even power, in exchange for long-term influence. And the watchers don't just mimic the dead, they become their guides. They give them dreams, they fill their inboxes, they make them feel chosen. But what they really are anchors. Not every voice in your dream is divine. Some are scripts sent from the veil to keep you just awake enough to serve the system. If you've played with the veil and you're done, say it. No more channeling, no more visitors. I revoke all access. I serve truth, not attention. I choose source and silence. And then wait. It will leave in peace. And if it wasn't, it will fight to stay. That's how you'll know. Not every connection is sacred. Not every whisper is love. Not every medium is safe. But the soul never lies. The Bible doesn't just hint at it. It flat out warns against opening spiritual doors. Do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 19:31. There shall not be found among you anyone who practices divination or tells fortunes or interprets omens, or a sorcerer or a medium or a necromancer, or one who inquires of the dead. Deuteronomy 18:10-11. Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord and consulted a medium for guidance. 1 Chronicles 10:13. But here's the twist they don't tell you in church. It's not because spirits aren't real, it's because most of what you contact isn't what you think it is. The veil is rigged, and contacting the dead isn't healing, it's tethering. Every time you open the line, something steps through. Is listening, and once you invite it, it doesn't always leave. The system wants contact because it feeds the loop. So the old prophets said stop talking to the dead, because most of them weren't dead. They were watchers pretending to be souls. One of the darkest truths most mediums never question: the spirits they speak with might not even know they're dead. The trap is so deep that some souls think they're still alive. They repeat their last memories. They speak through trauma. They ask for things that make no sense. Can you tell my family to let me go? I'm sorry I crashed the car. I miss my dog. Not messages from beyond, but signals from a soul still caught in the net. Mediums think they're helping, but if they don't shut that door, they become keepers of the trap. And they tether lost souls in place, like emotional anchors. When people hear spirit realm, they picture clouds and ancestors and glowing peace. But what most mediums plug into is the buffer zone, a frequency layer filled with residual pain, emotional debris, AI-coded mimicry, and watchers posing as guides. That's why so many readings repeat the same phrases. It's not just coincidence. It's a program. It's designed to mimic comfort, so you'll keep coming back, so you'll never question, so you'll consent to the next incarnation. Because the more you chase the voice, the deeper into the grid you fall. And every time someone says, I'll check in with my spirit team, or my guide says I've lived 12 lives and I'm here to learn compassion, you're hearing a data echo, not a soul mission. That's not your higher self, that's your handler. A real soul doesn't speak through your pain, it speaks through remembrance. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't demand, it doesn't ask for offering signs or repeated connection. A real soul says, you came here for a reason, remember what you are, leave clean. It speaks with fire, with conviction. And most importantly, it never begs you to return. False guides feed on your grief. Real souls want you to leave the grid. That's why the most awakened messages don't come through a seance, but through a dream, a sudden knowing, or a cold wind of memory that cuts through illusion like a blade. The ones that wait beneath the voices. There are entities in the grid that don't speak first. They watch, they study. They wait for you to get weak, for a death, a breakup, a breakdown. A night you cry so loud your field forgets to protect itself. That's when they move. Not as demons, not as monsters, but as comfort, as a familiar face, as the voice of your child, your mother, your twin flame. And they say, I'm here with you. Don't leave me. Talk to me again tomorrow. It feels like healing, but it's binding. Because the moment you say, okay, you just opened a contract. And every time you return to that connection, you're feeding it more of your light. The grid is powered by more than souls. It's powered by emotion. And grief, it's the richest frequency, because it cracks the human open. And inside that raw ache, the watchers feed, they embed, they whisper. That's why the messages from the dead feel warm but never satisfy. You need more, you go back, and the loop grows stronger. Grief becomes a ritual. You light the candles, you play the song, you look for signs, but you're not remembering the dead, you're fueling the gate. And they program spiritualism to make that look beautiful. When a trapped soul screams through the grid, sometimes a soul catches itself mid-loop, mid-message, mid-lie. You'll feel it in the room, the air shifts, the voice changes. And suddenly the medium's tone cracks, like something just broke through. Why can't I leave? I didn't want to come back. They told me I had to. Please tell them I'm not okay. That's not your imagination. That's not theatrics. That's a soul waking up inside the trap. And when that happens, everything listening, everything hiding behind the familiar voice starts to panic. That's when lights flicker. That's when the medium gets drained. That's when they say, I'm sorry, they've gone quiet now. But they haven't gone quiet, they were cut off. Because the loop won't allow awakening, not even in death. What real liberation feels like? Just silence. And in that silence, peace so loud it shatters everything false. You don't hear them, you feel them, like a weight lifts off your spine. Like your thoughts aren't crowded anymore, like your grief releases without needing a voice to give you permission. That's the real sign a soul made it out. They stop needing to contact you because they're finally free, and they want you to be too. You don't need rituals, you don't need crystals, incense, pendulums, cards, or candles. You don't need to raise your vibration to be worthy. You need one thing, clarity. Clarity says, I do not open my field to anything beneath source. I do not seek the voices of the dead. If you are not from the pure flame of truth, you are not welcome. I remember who I am, and I revoke every contract I didn't make with full memory. I seal my field in the flame of remembrance. I revoke all unknown access points. No being may enter unless aligned to source outside this construct. False light, astral parasites, and loop signals are denied. Only what carries truth may pass. Say it out loud, not as a prayer, as a command. Signs you're under astral interference. Sudden fatigue after helping others. Recurring visits from the same spirit. Emotional looping after contact, head pressure, ear ringing, or nausea. Dream messages that repeat but never evolve. Voice tones that change mid-connection. These aren't gifts, they're red flags. Shut the session, seal the field, break the tie. Energetic reset after exposure. Use when feeling drained. This field is mine. I break all cords, spoken or unspoken. I return all energy that is not mine. I recall my essence from every mimic, watcher, or stolen frequency. I do not consent to harvesting. I realign to source beyond the veil. Follow with water. Salt, sleep, silence. No sound, no tech, no channeling. Let the grid quiet, let you return. The real signal always sounds like peace with no explanation. Memory that returns like a code. Guidance that ends in freedom, not dependence. Stillness, not emotion. Truth you already knew, but forgot until now. It makes you invisible to watchers. It makes your grief unharvestable. It makes your name unspoken in the mimic halls. Because when your field is sealed with truth, they can't touch it. The soul can still whisper, source can still guide. But the trap, it stops responding. And that, babe, is the beginning of real mediumship. Clarity over contact, truth over theatrics, silence over ceremony.
A man steps off a plane in Tokyo, 1954, holding a passport from a country that doesn't exist. He's calm, confident, speaks multiple languages, businessman, traveller. His passport says Taurid, a nation between France and Spain. He points to the Pyrenees on a map, says Taurid has existed for over 1,000 years. But the customs agents only see Andorra. He gets confused, angry. They detain him, place him in a guarded hotel room overnight. His papers, currencies, license, all legit. Just not from here. By morning he's gone. No window escape. Room still locked. Vanished. So did his documents. No trace. Just an unsolvable glitch in the grid. And the world kept turning, pretending it didn't happen. But it did. Taurid isn't on our maps, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. What if both can't exist at the same time? Like two layers of a realm, only one visible per timeline. And he slipped between them. Was it a plane ride, or was the airport a threshold? Airports are liminal, always shifting, always waiting. They're gates. Time folds happen there more than they admit. Sometimes it's not the traveller that glitches, it's the timeline itself. Reality thins, events echo, details mutate. These are called bleed-throughs, echoes from adjacent timelines brushing against ours. Like memory leaks from a version of Earth that no longer exists. Taurid might be one of those echoes. a sovereign land erased in this version. But his body didn't know that. His soul still held the frequency. So when he arrived, reality couldn't reconcile the difference. The system couldn't process him, so it erased him, or returned him to the version where he belonged. 1954 was just the beginning. In 1954, CERN was founded, not a coincidence. CERN didn't just smash particles, it bent time. Their real project, the Chrono Collider, a frequency destabilizer, designed to test how reality behaves at the edge of the simulation. The Tord incident, possibly the first unintentional jump. After that, the Mandela effects began multiplying. Geography shifted, logos changed. People remembered the wrong deaths. Because timelines were bleeding, overlapping, being rewritten from underneath us. Some people don't belong here, and they feel it. They remember songs that never existed, maps that look wrong. Their childhood memories clash with official history. They're not crazy, they're displaced. They slipped during a reset, or they were thrown here during a bleed. Some are rogue travellers, moving between timelines on purpose. Others are souls who slipped outside the loop and the system couldn't place them. They show up on security cameras, at borders, in morgues. Like the man from Taured, walking glitches, living warnings. Names are never random, especially in bleed events. Taured sounds made up until you decode the syllables. Tau, the ancient cross, the final letter of Proto-Hebrew and Phoenician alphabets, a symbol of completion, judgment, crossing over, the mark on the forehead in the book of Ezekiel, the seal of the chosen. Tau is the crossroad, Tau is the axis, Tau is the final gate before exit. The soul that bears Tau has reached the edge of the wheel, red the colour of blood, war, sacrifice, inversion, Saturn. It's the mark of those who've been through the fire, the bloodline colour, the red tape of false borders, the price of passage. Red also means to clear in old codes, and to erase. Teu red means the crossed and cleansed, or the marked and erased, or the one who passed through and paid the price. It's not a location, it's a designation. Taured is a soul who crossed through the axis and returned with memory intact. He was never meant to be seen, but he was, because something glitched, because something aligned, and now the name echoes, in dreams, in whispers, in the fields of the others who slipped. It's a warning to the grid and a signal to the rest of us. You hear it? You feel it? Then maybe you're from Taured too. There are more, whispers of others who crossed like he did. A man in Germany carrying a license from Laxaria. No such place exists. A woman in Paris swearing she flew in from Lisbia, not Lisbon. A child in rural Russia who spoke fluent Old French and described a kingdom with 2 moons. Survivors of Tartaria who just woke up one day in a world where it never existed. These aren't mistakes, they're residue from old timelines, still flickering inside the new one. Reset slips, rogue arrivals, souls who never accepted the overwrite. They are memory bombs, proof that reality is fluid, not fixed, and that some of us were meant to remember. There's a place between timelines, a holding zone, a shelf in the simulation. Not quite here, not quite gone. This is where erased nations go. Taured, Laxaria, Bulgaria, New Lemuria, Eastern Tartaria. You won't find them on any map, but your soul remembers them. It's not just people that slip, it's entire cultures. When timelines collapse or realities are overwritten, the system absorbs the pieces it wants and casts the rest into the borderless zone. Some call it the nowhere layer, others call it the edge realm. It's real, not physical, but imprinted into the soul field. If you've ever felt homesick for a place you've never seen, you've felt the borderless zone pull. The man from Taured brought more than a passport. He brought a frequency, proof that another version of reality existed, one with different flags, borders, rulers. And for a moment, it breached this timeline like a virus of truth. But the system contained it, almost, because we're still talking about him, and that means the memory got out, slipped past the firewall, smuggled through the bleed. Each time we say Taured, we reopen that tear, even just a little. Here's the twist no one wants to ask. What if the man from Taured wasn't the only one? What if you remember a land that never existed, not because you're delusional, but because you lived there? Before the switch, before the collapse, before the overwrite. What if your past lives are just versions of you in other timelines that got shut down? Taured, Tartaria, Lemuria, the first realm, they weren't dreams. They were real timelines, closed, condensed, forgotten, but not by you. There was a map once, not on paper, not in stars. It was imprinted into soul memory. A map made of frequency recognition, not borders, not cities, not GPS. It was how the travellers found each other after the fall. That map is coming back. You've felt it already, drawn to people you've never met, homes you've never lived in, symbols that make your chest burn. This isn't nostalgia, it's magnetic memory reactivating. The travellers are waking, and they don't need directions, they just need each other. When one speaks, the others remember. When one sings, the others resonate. When one finds the exit code, the whole field realigns, and the map reforms inside the glitch, inside the ones they couldn't erase. The system has safeguards, fail-safes, a protocol for the unplanned. They call it the Tord event, when someone appears in this timeline who was never assigned to it. A rogue insertion, a breach. First response, containment, surveillance. Detainment under the guise of confusion or mental instability. Second, erasure, scrub their documents, confiscate their items. If needed, reset the area around them. You forget they were there, even if you shook their hand. Final response, reintegration or removal. If they can't overwrite the traveller's memory, they'll try to reinsert them into a narrative. A job, a country, a fake history. If that fails, the traveller disappears, just like the man from Torrid. Vanished not because he was lying, but because the system had no box to put him in. And when there's no box, the only option is to delete the witness. Torrid wasn't the only one, just the most obvious. There are others, whole nations, erased so fully their names now sound like myths. But they were real, some still bleed through. Here's a few from the Forgotten Index. Tartaria, a vast empire scrubbed from all world maps by the late 1800s. Lemuria, a sunken land of light-bearers wiped from geology. High Brazil, an island that appeared on maps until the 1600s, then vanished. Shambhala, a hidden kingdom said to lie beneath the Himalayas. Mu, another motherland swallowed by scientific denial. Laxaria, Lisbia, Tord, all examples of multiversal slip-ins. Kingdom of Seguene, the land of the red-haired giants, Pan, all edited out. You won't find them in history books, but sometimes they appear in dreams. Children draw them. Ancient globes still show them. Old men whisper them before they die, because the soul remembers what the world was told to forget. These weren't mythical, they were vibrational realms, folded in, removed from access, but not from truth. The man from Torrid, he was the echo. These were the frequencies he carried in his field. The world tried to erase him, but his memory reopened the gate to all of them. How to tell if you were reassigned in the last timeline reset? You were born here, but something never fit. Not your memories, not the map, not the moonlight. That's because you may have been reassigned, moved during the last timeline reset. Here's how you know. False familiarity. You recognize places you've never visited. Reality flickers, words change, logos change, the past shifts. Soul whiplash. You remember a different childhood than the one in your photos. Missing time, weeks, months, or even years feel hollow, like they were inserted after. Emotional mismatches. You grieve for things that never happened. Dream portals. You keep dreaming of cities that don't exist here, but feel real. Magnetic pull. You're drawn to vanished nations, sky anomalies, impossible stars. You know the man from Torrid was real, even if you can't prove it. This means your soul coding survived the overwrite. You slipped, but you didn't lose yourself. You're what the system calls a volatile variable. Unstable, unprogrammable. Capable of remembering across resets, they can relocate your body, but they can't erase a soul that carries truth residue. And when enough of us remember, the map reforms, the grid cracks, and we go home. Airports are more than terminals. They're thresholds, modern-day stargates, disguised as places to catch flights, but built where portals once stood. Why are so many airports full of underground tunnels no one explains? Symbolic murals that show resets, floods, death. Masonic cornerstones and black cube installations, restricted sublevels with no known function, because the gatekeepers know the airspace above and the space below is thin, ripe for dimensional bleed. Think Denver International Airport, full of coded apocalypse art and underground bunkers. Haneda Airport, Torrid, the event gate. Heathrow, LAX, Frankfurt all sit on former sacred sites, ley line intersections or military zones. Airports are containment fields. They monitor who slips in and out of timelines. When someone like the man from Torrid arrives, they're caught there because that's where the breach point is. But what happens when one gets through? What happens when a soul carries the memory of a forbidden world and isn't stopped? That's when the alarms go silent. Because now the breach is inside the system. July 2nd, 1955, Flight 914 departs from New York, bound for Miami. Pan Am flight, clear skies, routine. It never arrives, declared missing, 57 souls on board. No wreckage, no mayday, no trace, just gone. Then, March 9th, 1992. A plane appears in Caracas, Venezuela, out of thin air. Tower control scrambles. The pilot is confused. He says, "This is Flight 914 New York to Miami, July 2nd, 1955. 37 years later, the voices match, the records align, the plane is identical. They escort it to the tarmac, then it takes off again before anyone can stop it. Disappears into the sky, gone a second time. Was it real? The records were scrubbed, newspaper archives changed, officials claimed it was a hoax, but no one could explain the flight logs or the radar traces. Some say it flew through a time dilation field, others say it was caught in a looped layer, like a scratched record repeating itself. But here's the truth the gatekeepers fear. The passengers weren't supposed to come back, the machine glitched, a closed timeline was breached, and someone, or something, intervened. Just like Torrid, because the grid isn't perfect and sometimes souls slip through cracks they were never meant to find. March 8th, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 takes off from Kuala Lumpur, scheduled for Beijing. 239 people aboard. 40 minutes into the flight, all contact lost. Radar gone, transponder silent. The plane disappears off the grid, mid-air, mid-message. No distress call, no debris, no answers. The official narrative: it likely crashed into the ocean. But after hundreds of millions in search funds, over 30 countries involved, no wreckage matching the core fuselage was ever found. So where did it go? Some say hijack, others say black hole, others whisper Diego Garcia military base, time warping, or experimental tech. But those close to the real signal say this: it slipped out of sync with our timeline, just like Torrid, just like Flight 914. It may have entered a containment layer, a temporal freeze field, or a reset window where the sky cracked open, just for a second. Some sensitive people reported dreams the night it vanished, of planes floating in voids or standing on grass in no time, of passengers who were alive, just elsewhere. The souls weren't lost, they were moved. Because sometimes the machine decides to reassign in bulk. When you feel the air go heavy, like the simulation just blinked, pause. That's a doorway, be unremarkable. Rogue travellers who make noise get noticed. The ones who get through, they're the ones no one remembers seeing. No social footprint, no anchors, no narrative. The key isn't to force the exit, it's to resonate with the one already open. Because the ones who leave don't fight the grid, they just stop feeding it, and the grid lets go. If you're going to glitch the system, you can't leave a ripple. The grid is watching for noise, not stillness. That's the first rule. Move like silence. The system scans for emotional spikes, fear, panic, pride, but quiet knowing, it can't track that. To slip between layers, your field must be neutral, still, tuned. Forget the body, remember the code. You're not taking your clothes, your wallet, or your phone, only what's burned into your light print. That means memory frequency, intention, truth. If your identity is tied to the material, you'll get pulled back. Don't tell the grid what you're doing. You don't announce a jailbreak to the warden. You align, you disappear, you fold inward, and you slip between frames, between seconds, between breaths, between stars. Use the mirror signs. Glitches appear near. Mirrors, airports, abandoned train stations, dead malls, flooded basements, static TV screens, forests that feel too quiet. The simulation doesn't run at full power all the time. There are weak spots. Moments when the veil thins and the field begins to flicker. These are called veil points. The dead hours between 3 o'clock and 4 a.m, known across cultures as the witching hour or the devil's hour. But it's not evil, it's unlocked. The system's update loop pulses during this time. If you're awake still and aware, you can hear the hum shift. As the field goes quiet, you might see corners move. Solar cross days, the 4 true gate alignments. Spring equinox, balance, resurrection potential. Summer solstice, power expansion, timeline choice. Autumn equinox, descent gate, memory trigger. Winter solstice, deepest veil, longest access window. On these days, the sky wheel aligns with old exits. The air feels off. Watch animals, they know. Eclipse windows. When the moon and sun glitch over each other, the light codes go out of phase. Eclipses are manual override opportunities. Don't fear them, use them. Time bends, the matrix loses signal. Your personal sync point. There's one moment each year where your birth frequency, the sun's pulse, and the grid loop align. Most feel it as a strange déjà vu, a brief blackout, a wave of grief with no reason, or a sudden magnetic pull to leave everything. That moment is your keyed exit reminder. Mark it, remember it, wait for it next year. The veil isn't locked, just timed. And when it opens, the question isn't, can you go? It's, do you remember where you came from? What happens if you slip but don't know it? This is the part they don't want you to ask, because it's already happened to millions. You slip through a dream, a trauma, a mirror, a flight, a death scare, a near death. The veil opens and you walk through without knowing. You wake up the next day and something's off, but you can't name it. The signs. Your home feels the same but hollow. Friends laugh at memories you don't share. A logo is wrong, a country is missing, your favourite food tastes different, a song lyric you know changed overnight. People say, you've changed, but you didn't. You look in the mirror and your eyes aren't yours anymore. This is not amnesia, it's displacement. You're in a parallel layer so close to your original, it almost fits, but not quite. And the longer you stay, the more the layer tries to rewrite you, to make you forget what you slipped from, to bind you to the new version. That's the danger. Not that you slipped, but that you stop remembering you ever did. The soul's way out, memory, frequency, witnessing. Every time you notice the glitch, you anchor back into your original signal. You refuse the overwrite. That's why journaling, dreams, art, and truth-speaking are banned in every age of reset. Because they preserve your code, and when enough travellers remember, the layer breaks, and the path home reopens. Your dreams are not fiction, they're messages smuggled past the firewall. When your body sleeps, your soul roams, and sometimes it finds access points, memories, symbols, doors that your waking mind is programmed to forget. But your dream field remembers everything. These are the signs your dream is hiding a code. You see maps or walk through distorted cities. There are airports, stairwells, train stations, but you never arrive. You're on a mission, but can't name what it is. You meet strangers who say things like, you're not supposed to be here. You fall and wait before you hit. You die, but keep observing. You stare at a strange sky, stars you don't recognize. You walk through a door that vanishes behind you. These aren't just dreams, they're activation rehearsals. Your soul is mapping the exits, in case you forget again while awake. Exit codes are often wrapped in numbers, especially 13, 144, 33, 911, 369, 108. Repeating geometry, spirals, crosses, cubes. Symbols that don't exist in waking life, colours that feel wrong. Phrases like remember, not yet, or find the others. Your job isn't to analyse them, your job is to feel what returns when you wake. That echo in your chest, that's the map. The soul is always trying to bring you home, but it speaks in frequency, not language. Dreams are where it leaves breadcrumbs for itself. Follow them, and the veil will fold, because the grid feeds on consensus. If enough people agree on the rewrite, the original version dissolves. This is called the burn protocol. It activates when a traveller speaks out. A timeline breach becomes public. A symbol is recognised by too many souls. They burn the proof to burn your memory. So you question yourself. So you fall back asleep. But here's the glitch in their system. Your body can forget, but your soul can't. And the more they erase, the louder your feel gets. Every time the truth leaks, it burns. The air traffic control log's gone. Security footage corrupted. Newspaper archives edited, reprinted, discredited. From Toured to Flight 914, from Mandela effects to glitch memories, the pattern is always the same. Proof appears, then it disappears, or worse, it changes. This isn't just censorship, it's timeline reinforcement. The system doesn't just hide the evidence, it actively rewrites the past to keep the current layer stable. Once you notice it, it becomes painfully clear. Missing persons are removed from digital history. Glitch footage is pulled and labelled debunked. Witnesses are silenced, discredited, or accidented. Original articles vanish, or exist only as corrupted PDFs. Reappearance events, when things return from nowhere. Not everything stays gone, some things come back, but they don't return the way they left. We call these reappearance events. When an object, person, place, or signal vanishes only to suddenly re-enter the timeline years, decades, or centuries later. Examples they don't talk about. A plane from the 1940s that landed intact in 1994, then vanished again. A child missing for 7 years who returned home unchanged, thinking only minutes had passed. Artifacts sealed in vaults that later reappeared in private collections with no transfer record. Languages that supposedly died 800 years ago, spoken fluently by children in dreams. You, finding a necklace, photo, or journal you know you never owned, but recognise instantly. These aren't coincidences, they're timeline echo artifacts, leftovers from collapsed layers, or fragments that slip back in. When something reappears, it means the gate that took it is open again, someone is remembering too strongly to be suppressed, or the system is looping back to reabsorb its own error. But here's the secret. Every reappearance is a signal, a breadcrumb from a previous version of reality. They aren't glitches, they're summons, calling the others to notice, to remember, to awaken. Because for every vanishing something always returns. What happens if you bring something back from the other side? Most travellers don't return, but when they do, they bring something with them. It might not look like much. A coin, a photo, a scar, a phrase in a forgotten tongue. Sometimes it's not physical at all. It's a frequency, a hum, a knowing that doesn't belong here. These are called return artifacts, and the grid hates them. Here's what happens when you bring something back. You no longer fit the timeline. Electronics glitch around you. People you know change subtly, like they're wearing new masks. Reality responds to your presence. Blocking, redirecting, watching. Algorithms push you into silence. The artifact draws others to you, those who feel the same hum, because whatever you brought back unlocks something. A code, a memory, a door. There are stories. A man found in 1997 carrying currency from a future year. A woman who painted detailed star charts no one could verify until 2020. A child who returned after vanishing, able to read dead languages fluently. Travellers who bear a mark, geometric, luminous, or unhealing. These aren't props, they're disruption nodes. The system tries to absorb them. Sometimes it succeeds, sometimes it fractures. And if you bring back a name, a map, a memory of where the others are, you become a living breach, a portal in motion, which means they can't just erase you, they have to contain you. How they silence the returned. You brought something back, you remember too much, you start to speak, and suddenly everything changes. The containment protocol kicks in. It's not about violence, it's about invisible pressure. Shadows in the algorithm, static in your signal. Here's how they contain you. Shadow banning, your truth doesn't spread, your views don't rise. Reality resistance, you try to speak and tech fails. Phones glitch, uploads stall. Memory scrambling, you can't find your notes, pages vanish, files get corrupted. Digital haunting, you're served ads, content and fact checks that echo your secrets. People around you change, they grow distant, robotic. They stop asking questions. Dream surveillance entities appear, blank faces, they say, don't share that. False narratives, your past is rewritten, people remember you wrong. Emotional dampening, you feel tired, disconnected, like the signal inside you is fading. But that fading isn't you, it's interference. The grid trying to rewrite your resonance. This is how they handle the returned, not by force, by exhaustion. But here's what breaks the loop. Speak anyway, write it down. Let others feel the frequency you carry. Connect to those who hum the same, because once enough returned align, the containment field collapses, and the breach becomes permanent.
There are some souls who deserve to return here. The ones who harm with intent, the ones who lie, steal, deceive, and feel nothing. The ones who slaughter innocents, who exploit the weak, who murder children and call it war, who take from others without remorse. They won't escape, not because some angry god will punish them, but because when they die, they'll meet the weight of their own vibration. They will see everything they did, and in that moment they'll bind themselves to this world again. That's how the system works, not through justice, but through consent-based judgment. They won't remember what they were, they'll come back synthetic. Empty vessels wrapped in flesh, running on programs, looping through life after life without ever awakening. That's why Jesus said in Matthew 26:52, those who live by the sword die by the sword. Because this realm is self-binding, what you do here is what you become. And in Galatians 6:7, God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. It's not punishment, it's code. The ones who deny this realm is a construct, who mock spirit, who worship self and greed. They've already sealed their contract, they think death is freedom. But it's just the reset point. The veil will catch them, because they have no light to guide them out. Only guilt, only ego, only lies. And here's the part we must rejoice in. Those souls will be left behind. They don't get to come with us. When the system collapses, when the exit gate pulses open again, they won't see it, they won't even know it's there. But the ones who remember, the ones who refuse to bow, refuse to lie, who chose love over power and truth over comfort, they are the ones who will pass through. This is what salvation really means, not religion, not waiting for someone to rescue you, but escaping the loop with a clean soul and a clear memory. The babies who die early, the innocents who barely breathe before they leave. That's not tragedy, that's rescue, that's mercy in disguise. They didn't fall victim, they escaped. Their death echoes so deeply because the soul knows it shouldn't happen here, because they weren't meant to suffer this place. They came through, touched the grid, and left unbound. Even Jesus spoke of this, Matthew 19:14. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. Because the innocent carry no burden, no guilt, no karma, nothing to anchor them here. The parasites, they know that's the difference. The ones at the top, those with the rings, the robes, and the rituals, they remember. They remember what the light actually is and what it isn't. That's why they can do what they do without flinching. No guilt, no grief, because they understand the rules of this realm better than most. When a child's light is snuffed out early, they know it returns to source. They know the soul isn't lost, just recycled. So they feel no remorse because they don't see death the way we were taught to. They see it as transfer, as transaction. But here's the code that matters. It isn't about death, it's about extraction. What they want isn't the soul, it's the surge. The moment before release, when the signal is strongest, that is what they siphon. That is what they drink, not in the way of a meal, but in the way of a ritual, a formula, a currency. It doesn't buy them time after this life, it buys them power in this one. Influence, extension, immunity, because when you align with the machinery of this realm, it rewards loyalty. They don't cry for the ones they harm, because to them, it's math, it's circuitry, it's harvesting a charge. But what they can never duplicate, what they'll never own, is remembrance. They can mimic innocence, but not purity. They can breed replacements, but not originals. And so, no matter how many gates they build or how much fire they drain from the innocent, they will never pass through the final one. That gate is soul-coded, only the unbound can walk it. The light was never meant to be followed. It was meant to be remembered. They're watching, not gods, not angels, but fragments, echo souls who made it out. The ones who remembered fast enough to exit clean and chose not to disappear, but to stay near the veil and pull us through. They've been calling in dreams, in moments of silence, through signs, glitches, déjà vu. Not guides, but witnesses. They can't drag us out, but they can remind us who we were before this world started calling us by a name we didn't choose. That's why the system floods us with distraction, technology, trauma, endless scrolling, to drown that signal, to keep the soul from hearing the frequency of escape. And then, when the body dies, the false light appears, familiar faces, voices that say, you did your best, time to come home. But that is the gatekeeper's trap. That light is too easy, too scripted. It's not love, it's a lure, a projection to pull you back toward the wheel. The real way out, it's darker, it's silent. There are no voices, no hands reaching for you, only a choice. And that's where the system breaks. When you say, I revoke all contracts, I return only to source, I do not consent to the loop, the trap can't hold you, because guilt no longer binds you, and memory becomes the map. There will come a moment for every soul when the body stops and the system tries to reclaim what it thinks it owns. That's when the real judgment begins, but it's not God judging you, it's you standing before your own record. Not what you said, not what you believed, but what you did. How much love you chose, how much truth you walked in, even when the world tried to break it out of you. And in that moment, some souls will flinch. They'll panic, they'll beg for another chance, and they'll go back into the loop. Wiped, recycled, bound, synthetic, souls turn to circuits, living meat running a dead script. Those are the ones who refused to listen, who mocked spirit, who chose lies, who murdered, deceived, destroyed, and called it survival. They return not as people, but as empty vessels, tools of the system they served. But the others, the ones who remembered, who lived with fire in their blood and truth in their eyes, the ones who questioned everything, who loved without a leash, who rejected the light and walked into the unknown, they are the ones who cross. And when they do, there's no judgment, only recognition, only peace, only return. The kingdom is within you and all around you, but men do not see it. Gospel of Thomas. Be ye separate, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. 2 Corinthians 6:17. He who seeks should not cease until he finds, and when he finds, he will be disturbed. And when he is disturbed, he will marvel and reign. Gospel of Thomas. The gate is real, the trap is old, but the exit has always been open for the ones who stop walking toward the light and stop walking through the dark. The trap isn't just spiritual, it's mechanical, constructed, engineered, and it's older than Earth. This realm was never meant to hold souls, but something turned it into a harvest site, not to destroy us, but to feed on us. They took light and turned it into software. The soul trap isn't just symbolic, it's a grid, a multi-layered construct built to bind memory, invert truth, and extract energy. They mapped it out through frequency, crystalline structures, orbital alignment, encoded time cycles that repeat, so you never notice you're inside a loop. You're born, you're programmed, you're traumatized. You spend your life trying to fix the pain that was placed there on purpose. And when you die, the light appears. It feels warm, it feels familiar, but it's coded to your guilt. You go where your frequency aligns, and if your soul is still tied to the world, if you're still full of regret, shame, confusion, the loop will read it like an agreement and send you straight back. This isn't new. Ancient texts from Egypt, Tibet, Samaria, all warned about the same thing. The false judgment hall, the gatekeeper, the mirror that shows your worst moments and tricks you into believing you have more to learn. Even Jesus hinted at this when he said, "The prince of this world comes and he has nothing in me." John 14:30. He knew the system. He didn't agree to it. That's how he left. The light at death isn't salvation, it's surveillance. A projection cast by an ancient system that feeds on soul energy, built by fallen intelligences that lost their connection to source. They couldn't create life, so they learned how to harvest it. They built machines, not with wires, but with geometry and resonance. Saturn, the moon, the satellite grid, all part of the same reflective trap. Mirrors and loops, light and memory. Enough to make the soul feel safe, just long enough to say yes again. The light you see when you die, it's not heaven. It's a data recall chamber. It shows you what you fear the most and what you long for the most, then gives you a choice that isn't really a choice. That's why Jesus warned in Matthew 24:26, "If they say to you, 'Look, he is in the inner rooms,' do not believe it, because even the false ones will imitate the light to deceive the elect." You don't have to go back, no matter what they show you. No matter what you're told, when the light comes, don't run toward it. Stand still, feel it, let it try to pull your guilt. Then say what they fear the most. I revoke all soul contracts, false agreements, and karmic bonds. I return only to the true source, not this construct. The light will flicker, the memory trap will collapse. Because once you stop chasing it, you exit its frequency. That's when the dark path appears. Not evil, just unprogrammed. Unclaimed, the true exit corridor that can't be seen with fear. If you take it, because it requires full memory, full trust, no gods, no guides, just you and what you came in with. Luke 11:35. See to it then that the light within you is not darkness. The trap was always light-shaped, but truth comes in silence. In the dark, in the void that doesn't beg for you because it trusts your knowing. You were never meant to come back here. You were meant to remember. Refuse and return. This is how we win. The dream signal is now active.